What's up, guys? Welcome to yet another video, and hold up, before you get down to those comments and start spreading the hate, wondering why the fuck Pushing Pickle is not playing a Berserker, and why there isn't another Berserker build guide out, and what the fuck is a Warden, and why do I even care? Well, I agree with you. I don't know what a Warden is. Pretty much just a scuffed demon hunter from Diablo 3 if you ask me, but don't worry, the Berserker, still playing them, still doing good with them, and I'm working on some nasty builds for them, alright? So I want you, right now, to hit that subscribe and notifications button. That way you are the first one to find out when those nasty builds drop, okay? But for right now, we're taking a little break, diverting off, because I found a new class that is pretty crazy and fun to play for when I just need a little break from elite build, all right? And that class today is going to be a Warden, okay? Now, I don't really have a name for this build. It's kind of a weird build. It's a unique build, and it's kind of one of those builds where on paper it seems like it shouldn't work, but when you actually play it, it does some pretty good shit. Now, I would like to preface this video by saying this is kind of a starter build into a mid grindy farmy build, but I do think it has some great potential to be a high mythic pusher if you get the items for it. But now the items for it are pretty rare to get, pretty hard to get, at least for me, mainly just one of the items, which we'll get into here shortly. But without further ado, let's pop this hood open and see what the items of this build are. All right, so first of all, starting with the set that we are using, we're using Windcaller's 4-piece set. Now, the reason why we're using for the Windcaller set, full transparency, you could use this build with the High Ranger's gear as well, which essentially we're using all the same skills and talents for it, but personally, I prefer Windcallers because it's 2-piece. So it's 2-piece, all physical skills spawn a small whirlwind on the foe on hit. The whirlwinds deal equal damage to the skill that has triggered them per second and lasts 3 seconds. 2-meter radius damage, which we don't really care about, but if whirlwinds collide, they will merge, refreshing their duration and combining their damage. When a whirlwind is about to expire, it will automatically seek out other whirlwinds to merge with. This is crazy, guys. So basically, if you don't quite understand it, what happens is every time we cast a physical skill, it spawns a whirlwind on hit. That whirlwind spins around, dealing that damage of the skill. And then also, if it combines with another whirlwind, guess what? It basically combines that damage and duration, making it bigger and making it deal more damage, so on and so forth. And essentially, you get to get this giant tornado just ripping through mobs, one-shotting them, and just clearing a map by itself, basically. It's fucking ridiculous. Now, it's 3-piece. We don't, frankly, utilize in this build because I will say this right now. Oh, this build requires a lot of cooldown reduction, and I mean a lot. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So we don't necessarily utilize its 3-piece, but it's 4-piece. We do utilize a lot because it's nice. Because 40% damage reduction, that is crucial for anything you do if you're pushing anything above Mythic 1. Heck, if you're not even pushing Mythic, are you even playing the game? Like, just out of curiosity. Not trying to be rude, but come on. Come on. Those are rookie numbers. Pump those up to at least Mythic 4 or 5. Come on. It's not hard. So that pretty much does it for the set. Getting into our amulet, we are using Tear of the Arc Druid. Reason why is all indirect damage enchantments such as Chain Lightning, Burn, Smite, etc. deal 102% increased damage. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily the case or if this is the way this works, but if you take a look in the Berserker Arctic tree, there are frost tornadoes that turns them into direct damage. So I want to say our whirlwinds our indirect damage. Thus, this is increasing the damage of our whirlwinds. And pair that with our ring aspect of the ethereal. All indirect damage enchants apply a debuff dealing the same amount of damage per second as ethereal damage, stacking infinitely and lasting 7 seconds. So what does that mean? It means our whirlwinds are fucking strong as fuck. Crazy damage. Crazy damage, as long as it's working the way I think it does, and I think it does. If you test this on a target dummy, you'll see the stacking crazy. It's good. It's fine. It works. Don't yell at me. Plus, we got bleed on here anyways, so it's working somehow. Okay. Next, getting into defensive items. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. What I currently have on right now is Hydra Scale boots. Now, Hydra Scale boots health regeneration is increased by 1,000%, missing health percentage. This is good. However, the key item here in the boot slot is going to be either staggering boots or battle boots. Reason why is this build likes to tumble a lot. So by using battle boots, we're gaining 30 to 40% damage reduction just for tumbling for like 3 seconds. Pair that with staggering boots, 40% of damage taken is staggered and dealt over 3 seconds. It's a no-brainer, especially when you marry it with our Bulgar's binding on our accessory. Reduces the damage taken from stagger damage by 62%. In addition, damage is increased by 20% of the currently held stagger damage. So not only are we taking reduced damage, we are also staggering damage and taking reduced damage from that staggered damage. And on top of that, we're getting 20% increased damage from whatever staggered damage is dealt. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good overall. So those are what does it for the base items. Now jumping into the runes, first of all, like I said, with the runes, you either want to use battle boots as a rune or staggering boots as a rune, and then use whatever base item vice versa you have. I will say battle boots is a fucking hard item to come across. I've only come across one, and I've spent probably about like 200,000 gems, no, 200 million gems gambling to find another battle boots, and it's impossible. And speaking of impossible, rune on our accessory, we currently do not have one because I do not know what to put on here. I'm kind of holding out to see what accessory specific items the warden has, seeing if I can't come across a nice one. So far I have not put anything on there. If you have any recommendations, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, starting off with our helmet, we are rocking Sniper Eye. Foes struck by archery skills become weakened, increasing the damage they take by 30%. It's a no-brainer, increased damage. And then this is where we get into kind of the way the build works. So on our amulet, we are rocking Lethal Mobility. Mobility skills increase the damage of all non-mobility skills used in the next 3 seconds by 14%. This basically means we are wanting to tumble all the time to increase our damage by, 14, 15%, whatever you have. Pair that with our offhand barraging acrobatics. Volley is now automatically performed when using tumble or escape and deals 59 increased damage. However, it's no longer nearly as accurate and will spread arrows in all directions. Now, we don't necessarily care about how accurate it is because A, it's a free skill that gets casted when we can use another skill, so that's automatically a win in my book. And also, it's really not too bad. It's you're bound to hit the target with the volley regardless. So then jumping down here on our chest, we're using the Elven Ranger. Archery skills cost 20% less mana and have 20% less cooldown and deal 20% increased damage. Yes, and yes. First of all, don't even question this item. Let's move on to the next, which is our bow. Serenity, all archery skills attack with 45% increased attack speed. This can be flexible. I don't know how, locked in I am on this rune for the bow. For example, what you could use in place of it is on the bow, you could put barraging acrobatics on the bow, and then on your offhand, you could replace that with loaded bolts. Now, loaded bolts, arrows fired from double draw now explode on impact, dealing damage in a 3-meter radius. Double draw also deals 38% increased damage. This is a great item to have on the build as well. But with me currently with the setup, since I need so much cooldown reduction, the bow that I have right now has the Serenity on it, because testing with it, you put runes on items and you can't really take those runes back. So lastly, on our ring, we are running Jeopardy, because this rune is crazy because your critical hit chance is locked to 5%, and for each hit you gain 8% critical hit damage for 3 seconds until you reach 10 stacks. After reaching 10 stacks, your critical hit chance is locked to 100% for 3 seconds, in which it resets, applies max 6 stacks per second. So kind of like what I went over in my Berserker build last video, if you caught that. Since we have so much shit on the field that's doing damage, it is not hard to proc that 100% critical hit chance. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. Honestly, I feel like every build you're gonna do, put this ring on there. Reason why? Infinite scaling damage to a certain degree. It is just so much extra damage. It is nuts. So that's pretty much does it for the items and runes. So let's get into the skills and see kind of how this build is working and how it comes together. Looking into the skill tree, the 2 trees that we're dipping into are Wind Ranger and Druid. All right, so key things here in the Wind Ranger tree that you want to make sure you pick up. First, we want to pick up Treant Guard, or like I like to call them, Big Dumb Tree, into Tumble. Next, into Multi-Shot. Putting points into Volley. Then picking up Empowered Shot. And then finally ending off with Master Ranger. Now getting into the nitty-gritty of this build, we're putting 5 points in Readiness for attack speed. We're doing Archer for increased damage to all our archery skills. Picking up Double Draw because, why not? It's good. And then going into Distant Winds, picking up Overdraw into Stagger. And then we're picking up Oak Wisdom here on the Big Dumb Tree to increase our overall mana of the Warden by 30%, because this build is a little mana hungry. And then we're going into Splinter, into Razor Tips, and into Seeds, which we'll get into here shortly. And then up here we did put points into Volley. Now this isn't an active skill of ours, but since it's being automatically casted, we do want some points in here, mainly to increase its damage and also to increase the amount of arrows it fires out. But biggest reason why we spec into it is to get exposed. Foes struck by Volley become weakened and take 15% increased damage for 5 seconds. And then jumping up here, we're picking up Expertise. Multi-Shot costs 80% less mana. And then not only we pick up Quick Draw, which Multi-Shot has a 25% chance to double cast. And then lastly, we're picking up Move with the Wind for evasion. And then jumping over here to Empowered Shot for crazy amount of damage. And using Empowered Shot increases attack speed by 15 seconds, or by 15% for 6 seconds. And then lastly, we're picking up Master Ranger. Reason why we're picking Master Ranger over Windwalker, because the set does work well with Windwalker. I mean, it's designed around it. That's great. Increases evasion, attack speed, and movement speed by 25%. However, it does not give us cooldown reduction. It does, but it only gives us cooldown reduction for storm skills, which we're not using storm skills, okay? So we need that cooldown reduction for other things. So in this case, Master Ranger increases the base damage of all archery skills by 25% and reduces their base cooldown reduction by 25%. And on top of that, we're getting more attack speed for 20 seconds. So it doesn't last indefinitely like Windwalker, but we really need that cooldown reduction for right now. And then dipping over into the Druid, we are using Poison Shot as our main auto attack skill in this build. And you're probably wondering, why aren't you using a physical skill? Because this is mainly a physical build. Well, I was, but here's the thing. So speccing into the poison, biggest thing that we want to pick up here is pods, because of seeds back in Wind Ranger. So Razor Tips now apply pods from the Druid tree if you have the skill. We want that skill because pods, poison skills now all carry pods, which will start to grow on any foe hit. The pods deal 45% of the impact damage as poison damage per second for 4 seconds. When dealing damage, the pods have a 5% chance to burst, dealing damage in a 5.2 meter radius. And then we're dipping all the way over here to get Bloom, because Bloom becomes more pods become more potent, and also they have a 5% chance they also have a chance to restore 5% of the Warden's and her allies' health or mana, whichever is lower. So this is great. Most of the time it applies mana, but this is fine because we're a mana hungry build. So essentially, the reason why we are running the poison shot is A, to proc our pods more efficiently, but also because we have to spec all the way over to get Bloom, we go into spores a little bit. So getting into it here, we put 3 points into Bark Skin for damage reduction, and we pick up Forester for movement speed, which we don't really care about. Mainly Naturalist increases the damage of our nature skills by 15%. And this is where it gets crazy. So we get spores. Using poison skills has a 12% chance to trigger spores. Spores launch themselves into there and move towards a random foe within 13 meters while dealing 40% of the triggering skill's damage, as poison damage to any foe they touch may trigger on hit effects if no foes are in range. So this is good because we're essentially, we need to build our way all the way into Druid to get Bloom. So we pick up Poison Shot to ensure that we're casting Spores, and then Spores we go with Growth, into Toxology, into Herbology, and then Accelerated Growth. So it's not necessarily the focus of this build to build in the Spores and Poison damage, but since we have to get all the way to Bloom, it's a nice additive damage to the build, and it kind of works out well. Otherwise, if you don't necessarily want to use Poison Shot, and don't want to use this free damage for whatever reason, you can go with Rapid Shot, which is pretty good. You're going to be spawning a lot more Gales, and Rapid Shot's kind of just a fun ability to use. But that pretty much does it for the skills. Let's get into the masteries here. So now picking up the mastery, starting at kind of the beginning here, leveling up. I'm only 208. That's not a whole lot in my opinion for mastery skill trees. So starting off here, we are going to want to go with physical damage because this is first and foremost a physical damage build. Next, we go into Sleight of Hand for 30% chance to trigger Double Draw, which is nice. And then we go into Triple Draw. Double Draw draws an additional arrow, which is nice. And then we go into Restorative Winds, 10% damage dagger. Then we're going to go into Momentum, Tumble, Trap Flip, and Escape. Also cast Sprint after being used. This is crucial for this build because it's going to make us run a little bit quicker. Next, we're going to go into Splinter Arrows, 50% chance increased damage of Splinter and Double Draw. Pretty extra damage if you ask me. And then a big thing here, and we'll get into here shortly. Careful Aim. Standing still allows the Warden to take better aim at her foes. Who cares? Adding a stack of Careful Aim, increasing archery skill damage by 30% for every half second. Max 5 stacks moving will cause the stacks to wear off slowly. So this is crucial, and we'll get into why here in a little bit. Then we're going Wind Ranger Focus, increases the damage of all Wind Ranger active skills by 25%, which I don't think is really needed. But you could swap this out for Pod Synergy. Increased damage of the pods, which is also good as well. And then also, finally, Physical Affinity. Class Masteries now also increase physical damage for each point spent at the same rate as the other stats. Pretty good. Next, we dip into Reach here just a little bit, just to make sure all our attacks can cover basically the screen with relative ease. And then we put a lot of points into Health, plus 120 health. Then we go into Magicka for mana regeneration. Don't go a whole lot into it, just a little bit. Then key thing here is we pick up Nimble. You become immune to all movement pairing effects. And then even more of a big yes is Calm Mind for 10% cooldown reduction. It is needed. And then we go into Mana Leech, which, take it or leave it. Elusive for 5% evasion. Resist All for resist all. And then we are going experience gain here just because this is kind of my farmy leveling build right now. You could swap that out for other things like bleed damage, for example. Otherwise, dipping into the next one here, I'm going into Mana, Vitality for health regeneration, Golden Touch because it's amazing, movement speed, again, take it or leave it, and then Challenger, and then later on I'll be dipping into Fortress for damage reduction, which is a must, and then physical damage, and then bleed damage. Now, like I said, I'm only mastery level 208, so if you are a higher mastery level on the Warden than I am, and you're curious on what I would do into my lower levels, first I'll pick up Shattering Hits for 1, max that out, especially using Jeopardy. That's just going to be amazing. Thank me later. You're fine. Otherwise, for the third mastery, I go into Damage, pick up Radius, Anchored, Aggression, because we need more attack speed on this build, Hardy, Bling, Poison Damage, and then Elemental Power. And for the last one, I do Master Ranger because we are using a lot of archery skills. So that pretty much does it for the mastery tree. I think it's pretty straightforward. I know I say that all the fucking time, but trust me, once you take a look at the mastery tree, it'll all kind of start to click, except for maybe a couple abilities. Otherwise, with that being said, let's see finally how this build comes together and how I go about playing it. All right, so if you have watched my previous videos, you know I'm a fan of easy builds. I don't like clicking or using more than 1 or 2 abilities at a time, okay? So if you're looking at my hotbar down here, you are probably thinking to yourself, why the fuck does he have 4 abilities bound to his right click? So let's just start off on the left side here. So on our left side, we have Big Dumb Tree. The reason why he's on our bar is A, so he spawns, and also because his active ability taunts people within a radius. That can come in handy if you find a pack that's just right on top of you, so your Big Dumb Tree can taunt them and you can kind of get out of there. Otherwise, the biggest way this build works is we are using Tumble on our number 1 key. The reason why we are using Tumble is A, it is our main movement skill, okay? We are not wanting to necessarily click to move or move ourselves. We want our Tumble to move us for us, if that makes sense. I don't know. So essentially what it is Tumble, whatever direction you're facing or wherever your cursor is on the map, it will tumble the opposite direction. So it's good for when you get that mob on you, you can just right click and spam all your abilities and then just tumble away out of danger. And if you're wanting to move with it, essentially if you're moving whatever direction you're moving, you just want to look the opposite way real quick, hit tumble, and you'll roll that direction you want to move. So it's a little you gotta finagle it a little bit. It takes a little bit of skill. You gotta use your brain power a little bit, and kind of once you get into the rhythm of it, kind of makes sense. And then lastly, the one other button that we press is a right click. So bound to our right click is our poison shot because it's pretty much our bread and butter. Mix that with our multi-shot, and in powered shot, we're making sure we're casting those with, because we build such a high cooldown reduction. And speaking of high cooldown reduction, you want to aim for about 60 to 65% cooldown reduction, ensuring that your multi-shot and your empowered shot are basically on a less than 1 second cooldown, essentially making those our primary abilities to where all our damage is coming from. And then lastly, we have bound is Master Ranger. That way it casts immediately as it comes off cooldown, ensuring we get that increased damage, attack speed, and cooldown reduction. So that's essentially how this build works. You can kind of see it in the gameplay above here, is you're always wanting to tumble and only move with the tumble. That way you're getting your increased damage from your amulet rune, lethal mobility. You're casting volley all the fucking time, doing the increased damage and also making them take more damage. And then lastly, which is big, is careful aim, which is going to allow you to get just a flat 15% increased damage for not doing anything. Now, granted, you're not going to just be tumbling all the time. I usually tumble pack to pack to pack to pack, kind of that way. So I like tumble in and I tumble out, and I'm making sure I keep that buff on me constantly and doing it that way. And then, so this is where, so right now where I currently am, I can push around Mythic 5 to 6 4 very easily. So I'm kind of farming there, but I think once you get battle boots on this build, which is the hardest item for me to get for whatever fucking reason, this will ensure you to bump up those mythics a lot higher because you're going to be taking a lot of reduced damage. Otherwise, the biggest key here is just to tumble. You know, it's an easy build to play because I make it easy for myself, because all I have to do is right click. Hardest thing here is positioning with tumble. You can survive a lot of things if you can tumble out of them in time, but you can also kill yourself if you aren't tumbling the correct direction or anything like that. So that's pretty much the build. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked it, please hit that subscribe button and maybe drop a like on the video. I know every fucking YouTuber says it, but honestly, this past love that I've been getting from you guys, it's encouraging me to put more videos out there. So the more you subscribe and the more you like the videos, the more videos you'll see. Huh? You feel me? You feel me? Because I feel you. Wait, that's weird. Otherwise, that is it from me today, guys. And like always, tell someone you love them. Take it easy.